Welcome to MLA Voices, the podcast that delves into the world of the Master of Liberal Arts at the Johns Hopkins University. I'm your host, Tristan Cabello, Associate Director of the MLA, and in each episode of this podcast, we welcome a different alum to share their experiences, challenges, and successes within the program. Join us as we explore the diverse perspectives and insights that our alumni bring to the table. Whether you're a current student, a fellow alum, or simply interested in liberal arts, tune in and discover the voices that have shaped and been shaped by the MLA program at Hopkins. And today I'm joined by Ed Doyle-Gillespie, who graduated from the program in 2004. Ed, it's good to see you.
It's great to see you. Great.
And so thank you so much for doing this with us, Ed. And the first question that I usually ask our students is the same for everybody. Could you share some of your background and what inspired your journey towards the Master of Liberal Arts?
Yeah, sure. So I went. I'm from Philadelphia. I
Mm-hmm.
went to a boys prep there, a boys school, um, and I was there for 13 years actually. And we had a great program. And I, I right then I saw that I had a penchant for the humanities, um, and how they complemented one another. Um, and so I ended up getting a bachelor's degree from George Washington, and I went to Washington, D.C. for college and got a bachelor's in history. So I did some teaching. I taught history, and always loved literature so much. I was able to teach English and teach literature. Um, but everything was I always wanted to see more, to say more and see more about how
Yeah.
interconnected everything was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I did lessons in which kids had to use music, poetry, geography, and really enjoyed that. So when I saw what the MLA was all about, I looked at it and read it, and and it's funny, the adjective I would use, it sounds kind of childish, but the specialness of it, it just seemed like
Uh-huh,
this
uh-huh.
is really unique.
Yeah.
It's really unique, and it speaks to something very important. And I remember when I called the office, when I was first just inquiring about it, I asked, "Well, do you require GREs?" And to whomever I spoke to, that, well, it doesn't really test anything that we value.
Yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
this is interesting. So I mean, it fit my worldview. It fit what I wanted to learn and do. You know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so that's what
Yeah.
started me down there.
Yeah, and of course to mention that for our listeners, we still do not require the GRE because
Mhm.
indeed it doesn't really
Mm.
measure anything that we value. And can you talk a little bit more about what were your primary goals in enrolling in the Master of Liberal Arts? What did you want to accomplish?
Well, I was thinking on a few different lines.
Uh-huh.
I was interested in intelligence work, actually.
Yeah,
I was also interested in doing more in academia on a different level, maybe
I
collegiate
see.
level.
Hmm.
Um, and so there were a few different routes that I wanted to take, and I thought that the Master of Liberal Arts would complement all of them, uh,
Hmm.
because the rigor of being asked to think in a certain way, the
Sure.
rigor of being asked to think in an interconnective way, I wanted to take that into wherever I went. And
Mm.
it was actually pretty neat. I became really invested in it when I started to see how this class is very different from this class. But when you
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
it, it's like, well, you this was a literature class and this was history. Now you're talking about the history of this, and what are you doing? And people
Mhm.
would ask me like, well, it was hard. It was funny because it was often hard to explain it. You couldn't just say, well, I'm studying history. Well,
Yeah,
I'm studying literature. Like, well, I'm studying myriad things and how they interconnect. And
yeah,
yeah, it was
yeah.
my
So that
my father-in-law insisted, "Oh, you're in general studies then." I said, "No, it's not really, Dad."
and Uh, to expand on this, was there a particular moment or a particular course in your studies uh, that you think really influenced you?
Yeah, I would say one class that really got me thinking,
Yeah,
and I've continued to go back to that, was a Southern literature course that I took.
yeah.
Um, and I did a paper on the role of the rebel, the role of the social outcast in Southern
Hmm.
literature,
Hmm.
and it's one of the it kind of formed like a template for my thinking for how I look at a lot of things, how I look at society, how I look at
Yeah.
things like the positive deviant and things like that.
Hmm.
It it asked a lot of really important questions that I've continued to ask. So, and it was very, and I just love the books that we read. So
Hmm.
that was one. And I think working on my thesis, working on
Yeah.
my project, I practiced with different martial artists
Yeah.
at up and down the eastern seaboard, and really dug into a kind of esoteric topic. So it was a lot of fun.
Uh-huh. And to go back to maybe the question that your father-in-law was asking,
Mhm.
what are the most valuable skills or the knowledge that you acquire in the Master of Liberal Arts that you were able to apply to your personal life or to your professional life?
When I've developed lessons, when I have even just trying to communicate something, I
Yeah,
immediately go to how many different ways can I do this?
yeah,
What are the different ways I can express this? And I immediately go to that, which is
mhm,
so when I've developed lessons, I teach a course at Shriner University in
yeah,
Texas,
yeah,
and I look at it, it's a criminal justice course,
yeah,
okay? And I have them reading Solzhenitsyn, I have them
yeah.
reading A Lesson Before Dying, I have them reading Locke and
Mm-hmm,
Hobbes.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Of
Um, so it's you can look at that and say this is just a gallimaufry of titles, but there's a thread that runs through all of them.
of course, yeah,
So that was the point. It
yeah,
was like, I want you to see how this runs through everything
yeah,
and but everything comes back down to some major points that I wanted to make. And so um, it, it set, it complemented me and it set the pattern.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, yeah. And you talked a little bit about this earlier, but the notion of social justice, the common good, is very central to what we do in the MLA program at Hopkins. And so, in your view, uh, what role does the liberal arts education play in understanding and also advocating for social justice?
You ultimately are asking questions about humanism.
Yeah,
Even if you're not a human, even if you don't like the term humanism and you say maybe someone has a theological background,
yeah,
you know, or if you think it's too nebulous, but at the end of the day, we're discussing what it means to be human
yeah, yeah,
and the value of being human. Um, and so you have to be invested, you have to be invested in what it means to be human and the value of humans and the story of humans. And this program, without a doubt, it kept coming back to the question of, how do we experience life?
yeah,
You
yeah,
had
yeah.
that in and of itself will steer you towards a type of empathy.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And if you had to go back in time to, your very first semester in the MLA program, um, a lot of our students are coming to this program very excited, but also, I would say, overwhelmed and stressed out by the fact that this is a prestigious school and this is a master's degree and there's a lot to do. What advice would you give to someone who is just starting the program?
I'm just sitting here jotting some things down here.
Yeah.
I would say, first of all, yes, it is a prestigious school. I have no druthers about telling people I went to Johns Hopkins. I'm very
Hmm.
proud of Johns Hopkins.
Hmm.
So I'd say, instead of translating that into fear, take pride. You're here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, take pride, take risks. go for that course, it doesn't seem like you can quite pin down what it means, or this is something you've never done before.
Of course, yeah. Hmm.
You grow incredibly and take advantage. You
Yeah.
know, dig into the things that you really want to do.
Uh,
So take pride, take risks, and take advantage of where you are.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
you can do it.
yeah,
Just dig into it, and you'll see why you were selected.
yeah, absolutely. You're totally right about this.
Mhm.
And to wrap this up, I always ask the same question. And this is very much an open-ended question here. How do you feel that the program has changed you? In what ways?
Mm. For one thing, it reinforced my commitment to um, constant improvement, constant
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
learning and depth and improvement. And so that's one thing. It definitely showed me that I am a lifelong learner. That my
Yeah.
identity as a student is something that's very solidified.
Hmm.
Um, that's definitely one. And it gave me some great tools for self examination.
Yeah.
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's part of our family culture now, I would
Hmm.
say. My it's part of my I've been a teacher, my wife is a teacher, my parents were teachers, and the idea of exploring the mind and the world of ideas has is big for us, and this is a big part of it.
Yeah. Ed, thank you so much for taking the time to discuss your journey with us. I think the
Certainly.
students are going to love this. It was very inspiring and
Great.
informative.
Thank you
So
so
thank you
much.
so much, Ed.
Okay, thank you.
And for our listeners, I just want to say this one thing: we are releasing those podcasts every other week. So please do stay tuned for our next episode, which is coming in 2 weeks from now. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you very much. Take care.